Hi, it's Mr. Bennett, and in this video, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about problems with the nitrogen cycle. Just like the carbon cycle has some problems with it, the nitrogen cycle has some areas where it's screwed up, and once again, humans are to blame. So, the biggest problem that we have with the nitrogen cycle is in the last video, we talked about how in the nitrogen cycle, nitrate is made. Well, nitrate is great because it's a plant fertilizer, but too much nitrate can be a problem because nitrate is the number one source of water pollution in the United States. You may think it's oil, you may think it's whatever, but nitrate is the number one source of water pollution in the United States. It's the number one reason why people in certain areas can't drink the water. This map of the United States, what you're looking at, is this shows you parts of the country where we have a nitrogen problem. So what we got going on is every place that is orange or red, this is a place where they have a problem with too much nitrate in their drinking water. So you can see the Midwest is hammered. We got a few places here in Idaho, big spot up here in Washington, and then right here, this spot right here, this is Cache Valley. We have a small nitrate problem here in Cache Valley. So the number one problem with the nitrogen cycle is going to have to do with drinking water and what happens if we get too much nitrate in our drinking water. So why do we care if we have too much nitrate in our drinking water? What does it do to us? Why is it bad for us? Simple. What nitrate does to your body is nitrate makes it so your blood can't carry as much oxygen. One of the number one jobs of your blood is to carry oxygen from your lungs towards your entire body. In your blood, you have red blood cells. They look like little donuts or discs or whatever you want to call them. And these red blood cells are loaded with a protein called hemoglobin, and hemoglobin carries oxygen to your entire body. Well, where nitrate screws up the whole thing is nitrate will bind to hemoglobin and make it so your hemoglobin can't carry as much oxygen. So what happens is if you drink too much nitrate in your water, it's like slowly suffocating to death because it makes it so your blood can't carry as much oxygen. You're still breathing, but that oxygen can't get from your lungs into your blood and from your blood to your cells, and so it's like slowly suffocating. Now, this is the biggest problem in the really young and in the really old. It's not good for anyone, but where we really see the problem is with young babies and with older people. And in babies, it can be such a problem, it leads to something that we call blue baby syndrome. Now, the babies don't turn blue like the Blue Man Group or something like that. But what happens is if you have a baby that drinks too much nitrate in the water that they drink, what happens is they can't carry enough oxygen in their blood, and so the baby is basically slowly suffocating. And what happens is that the baby can't get enough oxygen in its blood, and so the baby has this bluish tint to it. This is a baby here that is suffering from blue baby syndrome. You can see compared to his mom, he's got kind of this bluish gray tint going on to him. Now, it's not a good thing, obviously, and if it gets severe enough, the baby can actually die from drinking too much nitrate in its water. So this is why nitrate is a big deal and why it's such a bad problem if we get it in our water, is you're basically slowly suffocating people to death just by the water that they're drinking. So the question then is, how much nitrate can be in your water before it's unsafe to drink? Pretty much all water that you drink has a little bit of nitrate in it, and a little bit of nitrate isn't a big deal, but there is a cutoff point, and that cutoff point is 10 parts per million. Once drinking water has 10 parts per million nitrate in it, it is no longer safe to drink. Now this graph you're looking at right here, this is measuring nitrate content found in drinking wells in Cache Valley. So here's the 10 part per million thing. And you can see that really in Cache Valley, we don't have a huge problem with nitrate in our drinking water. There were a few wells that were found that had high levels of nitrate in them. These were mainly found around Richmond and Lewiston and Hiram and so forth. So in Cache Valley, we don't have a huge problem with nitrate in drinking water, but there are some wells that we've found that have got way too much nitrate in them to make them safe to drink. Look at this one. This one is like 32 parts per million nitrate. That's 3 times the safe level of drinking water. Now, how can you tell how much nitrate is in your water? Well, if you live in the city of Logan, you don't have to worry about it. If you get your water from the city of Logan, that's Logan City's problem, that they test the water every day to make sure that it's safe to drink. If you live in any major city, it's not a problem, or even a small city like Richmond or Preston or whatever. The problem comes in is if you get your water from a well. If you don't live in a city and you live out in the country and you have to get your water by digging a hole in the ground and sucking the water out of it, then we got a problem because then no one is testing it. So how can we tell? What you have to do is you have to buy a chemical test, and you have to test the water with these chemical tests, because here's the problem with nitrate. Nitrate is odorless, it has no smell, it has no color to it, and it's completely tasteless. I could have a glass of water that has enough nitrate in it that it would kill you within 30 minutes and you would not be able to tell. It would taste just like any other water out there, and it would have no smell and no odor to it. So this is why nitrate, one of the reasons why nitrate is a big problem, is people are drinking this dangerous water and they don't know it. This well right here that's at 32 parts per million nitrate, if you took water from that well, you would not be able to tell it that it had so much nitrate in it, because nitrate has no smell, no taste, and no color to it. So you may be asking yourself, how does this pollutant get into the water? How does nitrate get into our water? In our last video, I told you that nitrate dissolves in water, and that's the big problem right there, is that any place that water touches nitrate, the nitrate will dissolve in the water, and that is what can lead to our problem. And there are three main sources of nitrate pollution in our water, three main sources. So let's go ahead and let's talk about those. First one is fertilizer. That we make nitrate in factories, and we make fertilizer that contains nitrate, and then we either put it on our lawns or we put it on our fields. Well, the problem is if we put more fertilizer on our lawns or on our fields than the plants can absorb, the next time it rains, that rain hits the nitrate dissolves in the water, and then if that water keeps on going down through the soil, the water will take that nitrate with it as it goes down into the groundwater. So that's one source of nitrate pollution. Another source, too much animal waste. You guys have been around Cache Valley long enough to know that the farmers around here spread their cow manure on their fields. Well, if you put too much cow manure and animal waste onto a field, that animal waste has nitrate in it. Once again, the next time it rains, that rain is going to absorb that nitrate as it passes through the soil and take it into the groundwater. And finally, the last common source of nitrate pollution is septic tanks. If you don't live in the city, you need some place for your toilet to go. And where that toilet water goes is into your septic tank. People live out in the country, when they flush their toilet, it doesn't go to a sewage treatment plant, it goes into a septic tank. And in that septic tank, bacteria eat the poop and break it apart. But out of that septic tank comes the nitrate that was in the waste from the person's toilet. That nitrate leaks out of the septic tank where it can get into the groundwater. So the common sources, too much fertilizer, too much animal waste, and septic, all of these things release nitrate into the ground. And then as water goes down through the ground on its way to the ground level, the water absorbs that nitrate and takes it with it where it can pollute the groundwater. And then if you have someone with a house that is getting water through their well, they're now sucking up water that's polluted with nitrate from these three different sources. So if someone has nitrate in their drinking water, it's polluted their well water, what can they do about it? Well, really they've got three options, and none of them are very cheap. This is another reason why nitrate polluted water is a big issue, because it's not a cheap fix. Option number one is they can buy a reverse osmosis filter. Now these can range anywhere from a couple $100 to several $1,000s. And reverse osmosis filters can remove nitrate from the water. But there's a limit to what they can do. I had a friend that had nitrate polluted water. His water was at 22 parts per million nitrate. He spent $9,000 on a reverse osmosis filter, and it removed the nitrate from his water, so now his water only had 9 parts per million nitrate in it. That's 1 point below what it's safe to drink. So after spending $9,000, his water was just barely safe to drink. So reverse osmosis can work, but it can get really expensive, and it isn't always guaranteed to work. Other thing you can do is you can dig a new well, or you can dig a deeper well. The more shallow your well is, the more problems you're going to have with nitrate, and the deeper that well is, the less problems you're going to have with nitrate. So if you have nitrate in your water, you can dig a deeper well, have these people come in and drill you a deeper one. Problem is, wells cost about $100 a foot to dig. So if you have to dig your well another 100 feet, that's $10,000 you're going to have to spend. That gets really expensive very quickly. And then finally, your last option, if you can't buy a filter, you can't dig a deeper well, you just got to buy water from the store. Now, nitrate polluted water is safe to take a shower in, it's safe to wash your clothes with, and so on and so forth. It is just not safe to use for food or to drink. And so some people get by just by buying water from the store and using that for all their cooking and for all their drinking. The one thing you cannot do with nitrate polluted water is boil it. If you boil the water, you actually make it worse because that concentrates the nitrate. So these are the three things you can do if you have nitrate in your water. Now, polluted drinking water isn't the only way that the nitrogen cycle can cause problems if you have too much nitrate in the water. Another ways that too much nitrate can have problems is through a process called eutrophication. Eutrophication. This is what happens when you have too many nutrients in the water. Nitrate is a nutrient. It serves as a fertilizer. Well, if you get too much fertilizer in the water, it can lead to this. This is an algae bloom. This is water, I promise you. And the reason why it's green is because there's too much algae grown in it. And the reason why there's too much algae grown in the water is because there's too much nitrate in the water. Now, how can it be a problem having too much plant grow in the water? Well, eutrophication can lead to dead zones, and it can lead to areas where nothing grows whatsoever. This picture right here is a satellite picture of the mouth of the Mississippi River. Here's where the Mississippi River empties into the Gulf of Mexico. And all this brown and blue area you see right here is a dead zone. There is nothing alive here except for some algae. And the reason why everything in this area is dead, and everything within 80 miles of the mouth of the Mississippi River is dead. And the reason why is because there's too much nitrate in the Mississippi River. Mississippi River goes through areas of lots of farmland, and as it goes through that area, it absorbs fertilizer as farmers use too much fertilizer on the field. As the water hits the ocean, all that nitrate hits the ocean and causes the algae to grow like crazy. Now, the problem with too much algae in the water is when too much nitrate enters the water, this causes the algae to grow like crazy. Well, the algae grow so thick that they block all of the sunlight. And so the plants that live at the bottom of the water can no longer get the sun that they need to do photosynthesis. These plants die. And as they die, their bodies decompose, and bacteria in the water decompose their body and use up all of the oxygen. And so all the oxygen gets used up, and all the fish and everything else die. So another problem with too much nitrate in the water is eutrophication. Eutrophication can lead to algae blooms, and algae blooms can lead to areas in the water where everything is dead. And these are the two main problems with the nitrogen cycle and reasons why we care if there's too much nitrate in our water.